I fear not the dark itself, but what may lurk within it. Welcome to Lurk, bringing you creepy, strange, and bone-chilling stories, with your host, Jamie Jackson.
Welcome to Lurk, the podcast where we dive into the shadows of the strange, the sinister, and the downright paranormal. I'm your host, Jamie, and I'm here with...
Liz.
She's back again to join us for another episode. Yes. Today we're going to be bringing you a chilling edition of our Stab and Gab Sunday feature where we unravel the darkest true crime tales with a paranormal twist. I don't know if this one has a paranormal twist.
It actually doesn't. No.
It's just creepy as hell.
It is awful. He's a legit predator.
And a Nazi. So
yeah.
there's that.
Yeah, that's a given when we start talking.
Yes. So, picture it. Berlin in the 1940s, a city cloaked in wartime blackouts, where fear hung heavy in the air like a spectral fog. Amid this darkness, a predator stalked the S-Bahn, Berlin's commuter train, preying on women under the cover of night. His name was Paul Ogorzow, the S-Bahn murderer, a man whose crimes sent shivers through a city already haunted by war. So light a candle, lock your doors, and let's lurk into this terrifying tale. So, Paul Ogorzow, which that's how we're going with the pronunciation.
There is a couple variations, but this one we think is authentic.
This is the one we picked.
Yeah. Yeah. Simple as that.
If it's wrong, then you can email me and I'll read it.
That's about it.
That's about it. So he was born September 29th, 1912 in München, East Prussia, which is now part of Poland. I'm not even going to try to do the Polish.
It's fine.
We're not.
Listen.
German I'm pretty good at. I apologize if I screw something up, but fairly confident with German pronunciations.
That makes one of us.
So he entered the world as Paul Saga. He was the illegitimate son of Marie Saga, who was a worker scraping by in rural backwater. The birth certificate, marked with 3 crosses by his grandfather, hints at a life steeped in hardship. Or perhaps he was just not a great little kid and his grandfather needed to... I don't know.
Yeah, no,
that just dawned on me that maybe it was marked with crosses because he was a little concerned.
There was indicators on him. He's a monster.
Yes, and before we get really into it, I'm going to preface all this and say, normally there's quite a bit of background, like there's childhood abuse, there's some huge event that was traumatizing in some way. There's very little on his background.
Yeah, there's not much to really go from. Like, there's no McDonald triad. Like, there's nothing that we can really say. Not saying that the McDonald triad is, like, stone setting, but it's like there's not even anything to base anything off of. He's not really well known.
World War I was raging when he was born, and Marie, his mother, worked in the fields alone, raising Paul in a world of scarcity. They didn't really have much. There's a haunting quality in this image, a boy growing up in the shadow of war, surrounded by endless fields and silence. As a child, Paul was eventually adopted by a farmer named Ogorzow, who gave him his surname and a new home near Berlin. And I think you said he was what?
He was 12.
He was 12.
He was 12 years old. Yep.
So you live with your mom for 12 years, and then you get adopted by a man. It doesn't say that the man was married.
Yeah, it doesn't really give much background on how his mother may have knew the man. It just says a man adopted him that was a farmer. So
I mean, she worked on the farms. I'm going to guess that's how
maybe
they
were
knew,
an acquaintance or even friends.
I mean, not to put a spin on it, but when a man who, it's not mentioned he and his wife adopted him, this farmer adopted him, and it just kind of makes you go, As I'm sure there was something that happened in that situation. So this move might have offered stability, but it also uprooted him, planting him in a world where he was always the outsider. The stigma of illegitimacy and the absence of a father figure could have left a spectral mark on his psyche. Some criminologists suggest that such isolation can breed a darkness within, a void that festers into something monstrous. I mean, obviously, he's a serial killer, so it definitely did something. But I really think that either he was adopted, in air quotes, to be used as a worker on this guy's farm, or like a slave, child slave, so to speak, possibly beaten, or there were other undertones with a male adopting a 12-year-old boy. I mean, he could have been... The farmer could be married. I don't really know. It doesn't mention a wife. It's
Again,
specifically
there's
just
not
as
much
the man.
about him in the sense of background, which isn't a bad thing because screw him. He's a crazy murderer and rapist.
He's a Nazi serial killer.
Yeah, so, I mean, he didn't kill Nazis. That wouldn't be a bad thing.
That would be... No.
This isn't Inglourious Bastards. Yeah. He did not...
Yeah.
No.
He was a Nazi and a serial killer. That's what we mean by Nazi serial killer. So anyway, by his teens, Paul was drawn to the Nazi Party, joining in 1931, and later he joined the SA, which refers to the Sturmabteilung, which is German for Storm Division or Stormtroopers. Not the white guys in the Star Wars movie. The Nazi Party's original paramilitary wing. They were also known as brown shirts due to their distinctive uniforms of brown shirts.
Imagine that.
The SA played a key role in Hitler's rise to power in the 1920s and early 1930s by providing protection at Nazi rallies, disrupting the meetings of opposing parties, and intimidating political opponents and minority groups. So, real nice guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you've already got somebody who's messed up in the head. And he joins a group that is all about disrupting things and causing problems.
Completely radical, yeah.
So that's great. Now you've got crazy guy being amped up and allowed to be violent, basically.
And we'll get into it, but a lot of the higher-ups in the party, they were putting propaganda out where they weren't allowing any news to spread about this killer. So... they didn't want to think one of their own could possibly be doing this. It's like, it's insane. They're Nazis. Like,
yeah.
I don't get it.
So to the outside world, Paul Ogorzow was a model citizen. He was married, he was the father of 2, and a trusted assistant signalman for the Deutsche Reichsbahn. In 1939, he was 27 years old, and he was on the short side of the medium average build, with short black hair parted on the left. He was clean-shaven except for an occasional small mustache, beady eyes, thin lips, thinning hair, prominent ears, and a nose that had an oversized right nostril from being improperly set when it was broken as a child.
What a hell of a description.
I
know, it's just like, this guy is a freaking ogre, man.
Well, his name is Ogorzow.
I know.
So... that's how I remember his name, because, so...
That's so creepy.
Other than the fact that he was thin. So he often wore his uniform from his job on the S-Bahn, which is important. The area where he began his reign of terror was called the garden area. The area consisted of a large area of garden allotments located between Ogorzow's home and the train station. So these garden allotments were typical in German, and they were typical in German cities for those without garden spaces at their homes. You can laugh at me, that's fine.
When you said that, I was like, German.
Yeah, it's typical for German. People could own or rent a plot that was called a colony, and that they were able to grow flowers, shrubs, trees, fruits, vegetables, whatever. They often had small structures for storing equipment, and in this area there were 2 colonies called Gutland 1 and 2, and it formed a continuous garden area. Ogorzow's own home had a garden area of its own, and he was said to lovingly tend that himself.
And he also loved to do it with his kids. So it was like, picturesque where, what a family man.
Yes, tending his garden. These garden allotments were extremely orderly, well organized, and attractive. Beyond them were suburbs with about 8,000 residents that included many railroad employees. Many of the residents had to walk through the garden area to get home after work. Many were women, because most of the men were away in the military. The area was poorly lit, and the authorities had turned off what few lights there were with mandatory blackouts. Basically, we're talking World War II is impending at this point.
Yes.
Or it's ongoing. It's starting. The blackouts were because of...
To avoid bombings.
Yeah, there were bombing runs with aircraft, and if it's dark out and the lights are on, guess what? They can say, oh, look, there's a building. Let's bomb it.
Yeah, prime opportunity.
So without the lights, it's harder to see terrain and cities and everything. So that's what the blackouts were from. Most people at this time, they did carry flashlights, but they were very strictly prohibited in how they could be used. You could only point the flashlight to the ground, and then only for the briefest of moments to check for tripping hazards, and you weren't allowed to shine it around.
Yeah.
So it was just quick on, off, make sure I'm on the right path, or there's nothing in front of me, or anything like that. The only light that was permitted outdoors at all times was an eerie green glowing pin that was worn on people's jackets. The pin was coated with phosphorescent paint that absorbed energy during the day and would glow faintly at night. This pin enabled others to see you coming and prevented them from walking into each other. But it also allowed Ogorzow to see people coming from a distance and determine if they were alone or not. So he would hide in the garden area, waiting for an unsuspecting woman to come by, and then he would use his flashlight or the light on his bike to blind them by shining the light in their eyes. Because of the forced blackouts, people's eyes were not accustomed to the light, and they were temporarily blinded and disoriented.
Yes.
Which, if you're a woman and that were to happen...
Oh my god. It'd be terrifying.
Yeah, because you're even today, without blackouts, if that happened, you're probably blinded.
Oh yeah, well there's a lot of rapists and things that do the whole blind you with the light to get you disoriented. I mean, that's still a thing today.
Yeah. The women would typically run off looking, yelling for help. Soon the thrill of blinding women grew to be kind of dull, so he decided that yelling at them, as well as momentary blinding them, was more fun. And he continued to escalate. So he would then yell abusive and vulgar things at them, like sexual innuendos and threats. And then when that failed to provide the rush he needed, he began physically grabbing and or punching the women. He continued to escalate, moving on to sexual assault and ultimately murder, which we will get into chronologically.
Yes.
We're going to go through everything that has happened chronologically. It's August 13th, 1939, around 1 a.m. Just 3 months earlier, the German government issued regulation for immediate blackout. All the public lighting in the garden was shut off. This is where Ogorzow would hunt at night, waiting for women returning home from work and presumably too tired to fight him off. That particular night, Lena Budzinski, a woman in her early 40s, was walking home when Pa Ogorzow attacked her. She heard footsteps behind her and began running to her house. She entered her yard and closed the gate, but when she heard Ogorzow's heavy breathing behind her as he struck her from behind. He knocked her down, and she was too dazed to scream. He never spoke during the attack, which I find terrifying.
It's terrifying. And he was opportunistic. Like, he literally would pick up, we'll get into it, but like iron pipes, lead pipes. Like, he used anything around him to hit, to hit you with. Like, he just was a very angry person.
Yes. She had a concussion from being struck in the head, and that caused issues with her ability to speak. She felt a knife piercing her back, and then he stabbed her again. He raised the knife high and plunged it down again, stabbing her in the back a fourth and final time. The 4 knife wounds and the head wound were all bleeding, but she managed to regain her senses and flee, making it inside her house and closing the door. Ogorzow took off. He fled.
Yep. He's a coward, so he ran.
Yes, he is a coward. Budzinski survived.
Yes.
So she lived.
Because one of the few.
Yes, one of the few. There's a few.
He was just getting started, so he didn't quite master his, his killing yet.
He's learning. He's not even killing yet. He's hoping they're hit over the head to be incapacitated.
He wants to rape them, but then he gets the thrill, and then it's all downhill from there.
Yes. Because it was dark, Lena Budzinski could only tell police her attacker's approximate size. At the time, murder and attempted murder were crimes that fell under the criminal policy, or CRIPO, or criminal police. Mm-hmm. We're going to use the shorter words.
CRIPO. That's what I have in my notes too, yeah. Well, can I say this? So, like, those were falling under the spectrum of everything, because when the blackout started, the crime surged in Berlin. So, like, robbery and prostitution, there was just a spike in it. And then accidental death, like car accidents, people falling onto train tracks, into trams. Like, you know, it's dark. They're not allowed to use their flashlights. So it's kind of... But I found an interesting statistic. So in 1940, the wintertime average for... there was one person killed every night because of the blackouts. Because it was just accidental. So think about it. There's all these people that are dying, you know, from suspicious ways, falling off trains. Keep that in mind. Like, it's just, you know, the police have no idea what to do with all of this. And then, of course, then this guy comes along and...
makes it worse.
Yeah, and it's just more, you know, more bodies, more things happening. There's war going on, so probably the police force is dwindled down. It's probably not... Did you read about if it was full staff? Because I think that a lot of people left to go into the war.
In the beginning, I don't think it was an issue, because the same guy was in charge throughout the whole...
Correct.
Or the same basic guy was the commissioner, which I'm getting ready to introduce him. But, you know, with these blackouts, one thing to stress, like, I don't know that a lot of people today can really grasp the full darkness of what these blackouts were like, because you had to put coverings on your window. There could be zero light coming from inside your house.
You had to use blackout curtains. Like,
blackout
they were
curtains,
very
or
strict.
People would put tape paper or put things over their window permanently because it was just easier. Because if you got caught with any light showing, you got in trouble. So, and that wasn't just Germany. I mean, they had blackouts in England, and there were blackouts in the United States.
I was going to say, like, London was one of them, right? I don't know if it was to this extent, but I was reading about, like, you know, London and their train system during, like, the blackouts and everything. And I mean, just picture kind of like New York being blacked out.
Yeah.
Picture how terrifying that would be, like, to be in the city and not know where anything is because you cannot see.
You cannot see.
That's crazy.
So the police commissioner at the time was William Lurk, who was not a member of the Nazi Party. But he was rather a member of parties that were advocating for minorities' rights, which I felt was important to stress with him.
Yes.
And it was shocking that he had a job and kept his job.
Well, wasn't he forced into it?
He ended up
forced into
joining
the Nazi Party, unfortunately.
Yes.
You didn't really have many rights back then. You
didn't.
You know, you were... It was...
Yeah. So, at the time, Paul Ogorzow was unsure if Lena Budzinski was able to identify him or not. She wasn't. But he returned to the garden area despite the risk and reverted to his low-level crime of just scaring people with the flashlight and yelling at them because he thought he might be captured if he did anything more. But once again, he began to feel comfortable, so he returned to more serious acts. At this point, World War II is in full swing. Germany and Russia, which was the Soviet Union back then, had invaded Poland and France, and the UK declared war on Germany. On December 14, 1939, at 1:15 a.m., Paul Ogorzow noticed 19-year-old Hertha Jablinski walking in the garden alone. She was walking home after getting the S-Bahn, which was the commuter train, coming home from work. Few people got off at this particular stop, and most of them would quickly disperse. It's dark. Nobody's hanging around chatting because you can't see anybody.
Yeah.
As she walked home, Jablinski heard footsteps behind her. She looked over her shoulder but saw nothing because it was too dark and the person was too far away. She had heard some rumors of attacks in the area, and she panicked as she quickened her pace, and she heard the other footsteps quicken. She took off running as fast as she could. Jablinski lived nearby, and if she could make it to her house, she felt she would be safe. But Ogorzow was faster and stronger, and when he caught up to Hertha Jablinski, he stabbed her in the neck, and then stabbed her again and again. He was once again eerily silent during the attack. Though Jablinski was shocked, she managed to gather her wits and scream as loudly as possible, and of course, Ogorzow took off.
Yeah, and that saved her life.
Yes. Hertha Jablinski was able to get help to stop the bleeding, and none of her wounds had hit any arteries. Surgeons were able to stitch her up. Once again, Paul Ogorzow was worried about being caught. Hertha Jablinski had gotten a decent look at him, but she wasn't able to tell police much about his features, but Ogorzow didn't know that.
Yeah.
It took months before Paul Ogorzow would feel comfortable that the police had not learned any information from Hertha Jablinski. He continued to attack women, but not to the extent where police believed it was attempted murder. Police were aware that a man was harassing women in the garden area, but there had been no murders and few clues, and it was not a high priority case.
I was going to say, who cares at this point about some women getting
yelled at?
Yeah, I mean, that's awful. But
yes. 8 months after his attack on Hertha Jablinski, on July 27, 1940, Mrs. Gertrude Nischwant, 25, was walking across the garden area on her way to her parents' house. As she walked, she heard someone start walking behind her. She walked faster, but did not start running. She most likely knew nothing about the attacks on women in the area, because the information was not in the news. It was only spread by locals, and she lived elsewhere. She was only there visiting. When Ogorzow caught up to Gertrude, she had nearly reached safety as they both were standing on her parents' porch. Not aware of the rumors of attacks, Gertrude was not panicked, and trying to keep her calm, Ogorzow asked, "Are you going in here?" To which Gertrude replied, "Of course," then said, "Leave, or else I will yell." Before she could scream, Ogorzow hit Gertrude Nischwant hard while saying, "Do not cry yet." She fell to the ground, and once down, he used his pocket knife to stab her in the neck, hoping to prevent her from yelling. It landed less than an inch away from her carotid artery. He raised the knife again and plunged the knife 2 inches from her genital region. As he pulled the knife out, he realized that she was screaming despite the stab wound to the neck, so he ran away as fast as he could, fearing capture once again.
He's just escalating.
Yeah.
Each
time it gets worse.
That's so bold to go up to her. Are you going to go in there?
He's on the porch.
Yeah.
They're both this happened on her parents' porch.
I would be so scared. I'm just envisioning going into my home, being on the front porch, pitch blackout, and some random man comes up behind me and says, "Are you going in there?" That would scare the shit out of me. That is terrifying. Mm-hmm. Oh, God. I just put myself in these women's position. It would just...
Yeah, it's terrifying.
God, he really manipulated the situation.
Yep. She survived her
God.
attack, and she reported it to police. And her details were added to the growing list of complaints. Then 3 weeks later, on August 21st, 1940, 40-year-old Julie Schumacher was returning home after a long day at work. She was walking through the garden area near the Rummelsburg S-Bahn station at 10:50 p.m. when someone blinded her with a flashlight. She cried out for the unknown person to stop, but there was no verbal response. Ogorzow took advantage of her temporary blindness to attack her. This time he knew he had to render her unable to fight, yell, or get away, and he hit her on the head with a heavy lead cable he had found at work. The hit was enough to render Schumacher unconscious. Ogorzow then raped Julie Schumacher. Because she was blinded by the flashlight and knocked unconscious, she could not provide police with any information about her attacker. Of the 4 major attacks in this garden area, this was the only one that involved a sexual assault. The police believed this was only because the first 3 were able to scream for help. At least they were smart enough to figure that out.
Yeah.
The police classified the 4 attacks as attempted murders, and in addition to these 4, they also documented over 24 other less violent attacks, though there are more than likely even more who didn't report the attack to police. After the attacks, Paul Ogorzow would return to his home, which was a brief 10-minute walk from the Karlshorst S-Bahn station that he shared with his wife and son and daughter. His wife, Gertrude, was older than him by 2.5 years, and they had been married for 3 years, and they seemed like the normal family. Paul Ogorzow finally decided to use a different location for his future attacks when he mistakenly attacked a woman he thought was alone. Instead, her husband and brother-in-law were right there, and they beat the crap out of Ogorzow.
Thank God.
I think they threatened him.
Oh, yeah.
They threatened him that, knock it off, we're going to the police or whatever. And
they should have.
Yeah,
God, can you imagine if
they
they
would have
did?
saved so many people if they had just...
But that would be the furthest thing from my mind, being like, oh, this guy's going to escalate, soon and start murdering. You wouldn't know. I mean...
Plus, nobody really knew everything that was going on.
Yeah, everything was kept out of the news.
Yeah.
And so...
In fact, we go into detail that later when it really ramps up. But, yeah nobody really knew. It was rumors.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Gosh.
So, at this point, he decides that the dimly lit rail cars would be an ideal place to hunt for women. He would merely wait for his intended victim to be alone in the rail car and attack her. There wouldn't be anyone to hear the screams. The rail cars were dimly lit to go along with the mandatory blackouts that were in place to make it harder for British bombers to hit their targets. On August 25th, 1940, the first British bombs hit Berlin. Though they did only minor damage, the morale of the people was in tatters, as they believed no enemy bombs would fall in Germany. Then 2 weeks later, the Germans began bombing Britain in what is known as the Blitz. Large cities being blacked out made it impossibly hard for the bombers to find and hit their targets. Within days of the start of the blackout, the Nazis passed a law dictating strict punishments for those who took advantage of the dark condition to commit crimes. I'm going to attempt to say this word. It's a long word. It's a German word. We're going to try it, so bear with me. The Volksschädlingsverordnung. I can say Verordnung and I can say folks, but the Volksschädlingsverordnung, or the regulation against folk pests, is the literal translation.
Okay, that's, yeah.
And it meant that you could be put to death if you were exploiting the special conditions of warlike blackouts and lack of police patrols.
I read that, but I didn't know how to pronounce it. So when you're saying it, I was like, that sounds... Okay,
yeah,
that
that's
sounds familiar.
What it is. It took me a minute to break that down, but that's what it is.
Okay.
The easy name is Regulation Against Folk Pest, which means people pest. Vermin.
Yeah,
vermin
pest.
People who are vermin.
It's so crazy.
I love German.
I was going to say it's
German.
very fitting, though.
That's why I took so many years of it, because I just love it. They have the best bad words. Like when you say when you say I love you in German, it sounds like a cuss word.
It just sounds angry.
Ich liebe dich. That sounds like a cuss. Ich liebe dich.
Yeah, it doesn't sound...
And it's like always, like everybody's like, in English, butterfly, it's butterfly. And then in French, it's papillon. Beautiful. You know what it is in German?
What is it?
Schmetterling.
Oh my God. Oh no.
It sounds very abusive.
It does. It sounds so angry.
Yes. I probably said that too loud. I think that's where it is right there. I think I said that too loud. Schmetterling.
There you go. It's better.
Got my fat German voice in there. And I'm not saying Germans are fat. I'm saying I physically am a fat German.
Oh my God.
I'm 43% according to the newest Ancestry algorithm. We are way digressing.
I was going to say this isn't the unhinged part of the podcast
This is
episode.
unhinged. Anyway, I'm sorry. We're going to leave that all in there. I'm not taking it out.
That's fine.
I lost my place. So, given the publicity surrounding the new law that says that you could basically be put to death if you're committing crime during the blackout. That's it. That's it. That's your sentence. You're going to die.
Yeah.
And people were put to death for robbery.
A lot of people... Yeah. Can you imagine if they put this in place now? Oh my God.
Yeah. In fact, I think I read that there was like a teenage boy, like a young teen, like, I'm going to say 12, not even a teenager, who was put to death for stealing something. And there were some people who were like, this isn't good. He's a kid.
Yeah. You make a one mistake. Like, to me, you could chalk that up as a mistake.
Yeah.
What's going on here is not so much. So it's kind of like,
even an adult
yeah,
robbing something during a blackout. An adult has a better sense of
right
what's going to the consequences.
Yep.
And right from wrong. A 12-year-old, especially back then, you can't really take a 12-year-old now and put them in the same situation because 12-year-olds then and 12-year-olds now, heck, 12-year-olds
were working in farms. Like,
I was going to say 12-year-olds 20 years ago in the 80s, but the 80s were way further back than 20 years ago.
It's 2025.
Yeah, shut up. So was that 45 years ago?
Oh,
Jesus. Yeah, no, I'm 50 this year.
Oh, I won't tell you about the breakdown I had at Buffalo Wild Wings the other night when I discovered I'll be 32 this year.
You know what? Cry me a friggin' river.
I thought I was 30. I lost track.
Yeah, I
we don't have to leave this
because I thought I was 49, but no, I'm 50. I'm half a century this year. Yes. So anyway, we're gonna. Anyway, so a 12-year-old committing a crime during that blackout and being put to death is kind of harsh, and a lot of people thought that, but I agree. That was the law. Yep. I mean, that was it. So given the publicity surrounding the new law, Po Ogorzow had to be aware that he was facing death if he was caught.
Yep.
On the train, the light there was reduced so that there was only a quarter of the light that they had prior to the blackout. You could still see inside the cars, but not very well. Mm-hmm. Boarding platforms of the train stations had no light at all. Most of the S-Bahn stations were outside, leaving passengers to wait in complete darkness for the trains to arrive at night, and even when the train arrived and doors opened, there was only a small amount of light that escaped.
Again, go back to the whole thing of all the accidental deaths that were happening.
Yes.
You're on a platform, you can't see. Of course you're going to fall off maybe or get hit by a train. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's very easy.
People do that during light.
Yeah.
When there's light.
Yeah. Too much credit. That's
yeah. So, after his last attack in the garden that resulted in his beating, Ogorzow learned some lessons. Make absolutely sure the victim was alone before attacking, and make sure you don't leave a witness. Ogorzow wore his railroad uniform as he rode the S-Bahn on the night of September 20th, 1940. This was the first time attempting to find an unsuspecting woman on the train, but he was very familiar with his surroundings and routine as he had been working on the railroad for 6 years at this point. On the night of September 20th, Gerda Cargill was taking the train home alone. While riding, she fell asleep, tired from a long day, and she had been drinking a little bit. When she woke up, she realized she had ridden past her stop, so she got off at the next stop and then waited at that platform to take another train back to the correct station. She was actually pretty worried because her train ticket only covered her intended ride from work to her house, and if she was stopped by a ticket inspector, she would end up paying a fine. Very intricate information, but that's the gist of it. On the train, Ogorzow saw she was distressed and asked her why. Gerda Cargill explained the situation, and Ogorzow invited her to sit with him in the second-class area, even though she had a third-class ticket. She felt reassured that sitting with Ogorzow meant that she wouldn't be stopped by the ticket inspector since Ogorzow was wearing the S-Bahn uniform. On the S-Bahn, there was no first-class cars, only second and third class, and the second class took up only a quarter of the train, so there were less riders in that section. And that's why Paul Ogorzow decided to attack there. Gerda Cargill fell asleep again. When she woke, she asked which station they were approaching. Ogorzow waited, probably holding his breath, to see if anyone boarded their train car. No one did. There wasn't much time between stations, only around 3 to 5 minutes. Ogorzow would need to move fast. Just after 11:30 p.m., as soon as the train left the Volhyda station, he made his move. He quickly went to Cargill's seat and without hesitating wrapped his large hands around her neck. He began to manually strangle her using both hands, hoping to make her fall unconscious so that he could rape her. Ogorzow did not have any weapons with him. Gerda Cargill fought him much harder than he expected. She managed to make her way to the doors on the side of the train that could be opened between stations before she collapsed. While Gerda Cargill lay there unconscious, Paul Ogorzow thought he had killed her. He opened up the door and threw her unconscious body off the train. After throwing her out, he tossed out her belongings, including her purse and all its money still in it. He was okay being a rapist and a murderer, but he drew the line at theft.
God bless him. Oh my God. What a saint.
I know. And then he closed the door before coming to the next station. At this point, Ogorzow realized that killing wasn't just to protect himself. It was also kind of enjoyable.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
However, though she had been strangled and thrown from a moving train, Gerda Cargill had survived. She landed in a soft pile of sand along the tracks. She woke up on her own on the embankment alongside the tracks and slowly put together what had happened to her. She screamed for help, and eventually someone heard her and the police were called. They investigated her claims. Though he hadn't yet killed anyone, this began Ogorzow's activities as the S-Bahn murderer.
And I was reading and listening to different things about this, and it said that the police really didn't take her seriously because she had been drinking. I mean, he strangled her. You would think that she'd have markings. I mean, I don't know. I guess they thought maybe she was so drunk she, fell from the train, I guess. But,
I mean, look at your statistics.
Oh, I know. But I'm just saying, with strangulation, you get marks and stuff on your neck. I mean, I don't know. It just sucks that she wasn't taken seriously just because she had a few drinks. But
yeah, they interviewed her, but they wrote it off because there was no robbery. She had all her money, and there was no sexual assault. So there was okay, well, what's the motive for throwing you off the train? And part of me can understand that too. When you have that many people doing clumsy things in the dark.
Yeah, no, I get. Yeah, I agree. It just, I don't know. It just sucks because so much happens.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and it said she suffered from a concussion and multiple abrasions from her fall, and she was actually hospitalized for 4.5 weeks.
Wow.
And she continued to suffer with terrible headaches as a result of her head injury. But the police found it hard to believe that someone would strangle somebody and then just toss them off the train without any warning. They couldn't comprehend that. It's a time where their serial killers weren't called serial killers. They didn't have a name yet.
Did you find anything about this? I heard it in passing, so I don't know how much truth is behind it, but I heard that German officers from the what is it called? Kripo developed the word serial killer, that it originated in Germany.
I did not read that.
It was something I heard in passing. I didn't look too much into it, don't quote me, but I just thought that was interesting that they're saying that it was coined from German police. So, I don't know. I
don't know, because it wasn't until the 60s and 70s that FBI profilers really
that was what they were talking about. They're like, it's
unless they used it back then, they said it was serial killings.
That's what I'm assuming, because they mentioned about the FBI coming up with it, but they weren't the first ones to have used the term.
I can see in this case, especially, serial killings is a string of killings.
Correct.
It's in a serial, a series.
Yep, it's one after
TV,
the other.
It's one after the other, and I could see that. I did not see that. I'm curious. I might have to look.
I was gonna say I'll look more into it. I just know if you heard that as well through your research, because it was in one article. Okay, that's fine.
I kind of slacked on my
okay.
research a little bit with
fine.
this one. I have a lot of information because I read a book.
Oh no, I read the same book. Yeah,
I know.
I mean,
read it in a day.
I did not.
That's what I did on vacation, ladies and gentlemen. I researched serial killers. Anyway, let's get back on track.
Yes.
So anyway, the police are not believing her, because it's why would somebody strangle you and throw you off the train? Doesn't make any sense. And the simpler explanation was that she was either mistaken or lying, and it didn't help matters that she had been drinking earlier in the evening and had fallen asleep 2 different times on the train.
Yeah.
It's Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is is the most plausible explanation. So I get it. I'm not faulting them. Like you said, accidents were prevalent during the blackout.
Pitch black
People
outside.
did stupid crap.
Yeah.
On October 4th, 1940, Paul Ogorzow was not hunting on the S-Bahn. He had a target already in mind.
This poor woman.
A woman that he had met on the train. So a few days before, he saw Gerda Ditter waiting for a train. He went up to her and asked if he could visit her sometime, and she agreed and told him where she lived. She happened to live in the same neighborhood where the gardens were, where he started all his attacks. Gerda Ditter was 20 years old with 2 young children. Her husband, Arthur Ditter, was away in the military. With so many men away fighting, it had become easier for men like Paul Ogorzow to find women who were willing to have an affair. That night, Ogorzow made his initial visit to the Ditter home. They started off talking. The house was small, and they were talking in the kitchen while Gerda Ditter's 2 small children were sleeping in the living room. Ogorzow wanted to keep Gerda comfortable with his presence until he was ready to attack. Then, without warning, Paul Ogorzow abruptly ended the conversation with a violent attack. He grabbed her with both hands wrapped around her neck. He squeezed so hard he fractured her hyoid bone. Despite the injury, Gerda was still alive. Ogorzow kept one hand on her neck to hold her steady while removing his other hand. He used the free hand to take a knife out of his pocket and stabbed her in the neck. This time he severed her carotid artery, and she quickly bled out. She was his first murder.
And her kids were in the other room.
Yes.
Ugh.
Ogorzow fled the scene by walking out the front door. None of Gerda Ditter's neighbors saw him leave, but later said they felt an eerie chill that night, as if the air itself knew something was wrong. Paul Ogorzow walked through the garden area until he reached the neighborhood where he lived. Gerda Ditter's murder came at a stressful time in her life. Authorities believed that she led what was called an inefficient life, and they planned to remove her 2 small children and place them in an orphanage. Conrad Braun, the man in charge of carrying out the relocation of the children, arrived at her home on October 4th, but no one answered his knock. He found the door to the garden area of the house was unlocked, and let himself in and found the door to the house was also unlocked. With the blackout conditions, it was hard to see in the home, so he lit a match in the kitchen and he discovered Gerda's body. It was immediately apparent that she was dead. She was propped up where she had died, and there was bruising on her neck. The children were fine. One was on a cot and the other in a stroller. Braun contacted the local police and reported his grisly discovery. Initially, there was a brief thought that she had actually committed suicide because there was no defensive wounds on her body, and it happened the same day the government was coming to take her children. So,
Wait a second. I mean, she had a stab wound in her neck.
Well, you can stab yourself in the neck.
Yeah, but how do you strangle yourself and then stab? I mean, that just seems like an awful lot of work.
I think at first sight.
Sure, at first sight.
There's probably the bruising was probably not as much on their mind as the giant puddle of blood from her bleeding out.
Yeah,
I if you've already got a negative opinion of the woman,
I know.
I'm gonna guess inefficient. Like, I'm guessing she's neglect. It's more like neglect and not caring for the children.
Yeah, that's what I heard, that the social worker was there because of neglect to the children. Yeah. That neighbors had been complaining about what they've seen, and she left. I mean, she died, but there was a child in a stroller still, right. For the whole, it just, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, apparently once the police got on scene, it was quickly determined that it was homicide. Yeah. Not suicide.
I just... when I saw that they were like, oh, suicide, I'm like, what?
Yeah, the criminal police observed, quote, immediately nearby the deceased, namely under the right hand on the ground, there was a kitchen knife with the blade under a dirty cloth. Whether this knife was the one used in the murder is not yet clear. Fingerprints have not yet been found on the knife. The knife was sent to be tested, but they determined that no human blood was detected on the kitchen knife. The murder weapon was not found at the scene at all. So, you can't hide your murder weapon if you can't hide your suicide tool if you've committed suicide.
That's like somebody saying, oh, there's no prints on this. It's like, how do you wipe the prints off of it?
Yeah, exactly. Even in 1940, the first suspect was the husband, especially since it was determined that Gerda Ditter had known the killer and let him into the home. Arthur Ditter, her husband, was away in the military and provided the police with an alibi. He also gave them background information on Gerda. He and Gerda had met in school, and when she turned 16, they became romantically involved. Gerda's mother did not approve because she believed Arthur's prospects were poor. He and Gerda married November 1938 and had 2 children, a daughter named Helga and a son named Wolfgang. At the time of the murder, little Helga was 4 months old and Wolfgang was just over a year and a half. Thank God they were young.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
Because they probably have no recollection of that at all.
Correct. If it was going to happen, I hate to say that, but at least they probably don't remember anything, and they're not completely traumatized in that sense.
Right. Arthur Ditter didn't know who would want to kill his wife, but mentioned a neighbor, Herman Hurlitz, who had a dispute with Gerda over pigeons that she kept on the property. Many people had animals like rabbits and hens, but it was the pigeons that he apparently specifically had a problem with. Though it seems he had similar fights with other neighbors. Basically, it turns out he was the neighborhood Karen.
I was going to say, what a curmudgeon. Like, it's just... God.
He was talked to, but he was cleared. On October 7th, the Berlin Kripo announced 1,000 Reichsmark reward for information that led to solving the crime, and reward posters were put up around the area. The poster that they put in public said, "Warning, do not destroy relay contents. Woman murdered in Gutland 2 colony. 1,000 Reichsmarks reward." On Friday, October 4th, 1940, Gerda Dieter, a 20-year-old married woman, was found murdered in her garden plot, Berlin Friedrichsfelde, Gutland 2, Way 5A, number 33, with a deep knife cut in the left side of her neck. The woman was additionally strangled. Nothing was stolen. Miss Dieter was last seen on October 3rd, 1940, at about 5 p.m. near her apartment. For a long time in Colony Gutland and in the surrounding area, solitary women have been immorally harassed, and some have also been wounded with a knife, especially in the dark, by an unknown offender. It is to be assumed that this situation concerns the same offender. It is the duty of every citizen to actively participate in identifying this demon. Description of subject: 30 to 40 years old, 1.65 to 1.7 meters tall. Body facial expression. Clothing: mostly blue visor caps, short jacket, sports shirt with open collar, long dark pants, often has or is riding a bicycle. The answers to the following question are of urgent importance. Who saw or talked to Mrs. Dieter on the night or in the day of the murder, either alone or maybe in the company of a man? Who can describe her daily activities in more detail? In which businesses did she often purchase things? Did someone see Mrs. Dieter come somewhere or at some time with the above described man? Who can say anything else about the subject? I'm gonna stop it there. It goes on, but it was a very big poster apparently, because there's like, I don't know, 3 more paragraphs worth of stuff that was on it. So, I mean,
not like a typical flyer you see today, because there's no way all that would have fit.
No, and it was in German. I mean,
yeah.
I didn't. By the way, it was in English that I just read. I did not translate that in my head. I'm not that good.
You could have taken credit. It's fine. No one would have known.
So the Kripo had already put the previous attacks on women in line with the murder of Dieter, as heard in the poster. They already said, "Hey, there's people being attacked here. You know, maybe there's something to it."
Those pesky women.
I know. By early November, the Kripo had over 30 suspects, but after a thorough examination, none were believed to be responsible. During the night of November 4th, 1940, Paul Ogorzow again used the S-Bahn to find a victim. Under his jacket, he carried a heavy piece of lead cable, the exact same one that he used to knock out Julie Schumacher, who he raped. And he discovered a heavy, blunt object worked better than just using his bare hands or a knife. He found that using his hands to strangle a woman or threatening her with a knife could still possibly allow his victim to resist his attack. Sometimes the women cried out. On other occasions, they tore at him and scratched him. On the evening of November 4th, 30-year-old Elizabeth Bendorf had just finished her shift as a train ticket salesperson at the S-Bahn station Friedrichshagen and was waiting for a train to arrive in the station to take her home. Paul Ogorzow saw Elizabeth waiting by herself for the train. He indicated that she should use the second-class compartment instead of the third-class one she had a ticket for. They sat together in second class and made small talk. Ogorzow saw that they were alone, but he waited until after they reached the next station. He took the lead cable and hit Elizabeth Bendorf in the head. Despite the blow and concussion, she remained conscious and fought back and screamed as loud as she could, but no one in the other compartments could hear her. Ogorzow was panicked now. He didn't like it when his victims fought back, because you're not supposed to. He managed to hit her on the head again. He continued to hit her on the head until she finally slumped down onto the floor, and believing she was dead or unconscious, he turned to open the compartment door. Then Bendorf began moving, and Ogorzow was shocked until he realized she was not moving fast enough to be a threat to him. He hit her on the head once more with the lead cable, hoping this would be the final blow needed, but she was still conscious, though she could not do anything to stop her assailant. He began to hit her repeatedly in the back with the lead cable, and he kicked her. He touched her sexually, briefly, as he dragged her to the open door, then threw her from the train before it arrived at the next station. After the attack, Paul Ogorzow left his weapon on the train and returned home.
Yeah, he clocked out of work like nothing happened and just walked on home.
Went home to his kids.
Yep.
Miraculously, Elizabeth Bendorf survived, though she suffered a serious concussion that required extensive hospitalization. It took 8 days for her to recover enough to speak to police. Now that a second woman had been attacked and thrown from the train, it added validity to Gerda Cargill's story. Both Bendorf and Cargill said their attacker was a white male wearing a dark uniform consistent with the railroad uniform, and that he was between 5'4" and 5'5" tall. Neither got a good look at his face. Police searched the train cars and found the discarded lead cable Ogorzow had used to beat Bendorf with. The cable was 2 inches thick and 20 inches long, and it was a piece of lead-encased telephone cable with a number on it. It was a cable only used by the Berlin phone company. In the early hours on December 4th, 1940, Paul Ogorzow rode the S-Bahn looking for a new victim. He had a new weapon. This time it was an iron rod about 15 inches long. Elfriede Franke, a 26-year-old nurse in uniform, was a passenger. Ogorzow's assault on her was brutal and unexpected. He struck her on the head without saying a word. Determined not to repeat previous mistakes, he struck Elfriede Franke with such force that he fractured her skull and her brain was damaged. She collapsed on the floor, motionless. He opened the compartment door, dragged the lifeless woman over, and threw her body out into the night. Though enjoying the euphoria of the kill, he was disappointed that there was no time for a sexual assault.
Yeah, during his interview with police, once he, was starting to confess to this, he just had no remorse. He said that he explained to them that he was pleased with himself that he managed to kill her with one hit. That he was really happy he finally managed to do it.
Yeah, well, he screwed it up how many times?
Oh, I know. It's about
not to give him, but it's like, I killed her with one hit. Yeah, okay, well, how many? You didn't even kill anybody. Yeah, I mean...
Not saying, okay, that came out completely wrong. I don't mean that I'm glad that he finally managed to do it. But it's just like, what a bastard. Like, oh, I did it one hit.
I did it with one hit.
Yeah.
Jerk.
Yeah, what an ass. And also, I want to point out, did you notice how there's no rhyme or reason to his victims? There is all different ages. He had no...
He just wanted to kill women.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter how old they were, how young they were. He just... It was...
And that's one thing I've brought up Paul Holes before because we all know I'm hot for holes, which, whatever.
Who isn't, but okay.
Seriously. But, sorry, I got described. Like, totally lost my train of thought.
She was envisioning, just picturing it. Anyway.
Yeah, so he has said that thinking that serial killers have a specific type and look for their victims is false. Some of them do, yes. Ted Bundy, yes. Had a specific one. Mm-hmm. That does not run true with all serial killers.
This is a prime example.
Yes, I mean, some serial killers, it's not the person, it's the kill, it's the kill and the attack, and it's who's convenient.
Correct, and that's all this was convenience. It didn't matter.
Now, the eyeball killer, he kind of had a type, except for the one lady. We talked about that. Go listen to that episode.
Yeah, that was
another crazy thing. He had a type, but the one person that didn't fit his type, we found out that she was borrowing a bright yellow rain jacket from another girl who did fit his type. Yep. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Don't keyhole them into...
Yeah. I know. Every monster is different.
That's right. So only 3 hours after Elfriede Franke's body was thrown from the train, the police were gathered around the body. Mm-hmm. They called in the medical examiner, Dr. Valdemar Weiman, well-known forensic pathologist. The Kripo wanted him to examine the body there where it lay and give a rough estimate on the time of death. They also wanted an opinion on the cause of death, and the doctor pushed back on why he was being rushed. Like, why are we doing this here right now, like, immediate? They explained it was the third attack of this kind on this particular route. he was reminded that he was the medical examiner on the other case. He had been sent radiographs asking for his expert opinion. Dr. Valdeman pressed on why there was so much secrecy, and he was told by the detective that Joseph Goebbels, the Reich Minister of Propaganda, wanted it kept quiet. So he realized at the time that the doctor had examined another woman killed by the same perpetrator, Gerda Ditter. Police had not linked the garden attack with the S-Bahn attacks. They were considered separate from each other. At this time, Police Commissioner Wilhelm Lüdke took over the investigation. We mentioned him previously as someone who was not a member of the Nazi Party, but by this time he had joined the Nazi Party. I don't think he really had a choice.
He didn't. From what I gathered, it was he was pressured into it to keep his job.
Yeah.
And probably to keep him from getting killed. Like
probably.
I mean...
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to explain something here. His joining number was 7 million above the killers. So Paul Ogorzow joined, 1931?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he has a number. Let's say he's the 1 millionth person to join.
Okay.
When William Lüdke joined, his number was 8 million.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 7 million difference between numbers. This is going to make sense in a million.
I was going to say, and it's important in their
This
eyes.
is important, yes. So this meant the killer was seen as way more loyal to the Reich than the police commissioner. Okay, so just let that set in. Paul Ogorzow, numbers-wise, would be seen as more loyal to the Nazi Party than the police commissioner at the time, because he waited so long to join. It showed that Paul Ogorzow believed more in the Nazi cause. It's basically what I'm saying. Just
Which
a little
makes
bit
a difference. I mean, in this whole time, this is,
I mean, it does and it doesn't.
To some people, it made a difference, too.
It did. I mean, yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Or we'll end this early and not tell you about anything else in between. So, on the same night that Ogorzow killed Elfriede Franke, he struck again. He did another one. He rode the S-Bahn to Karlshorst Station. Though the kill thrilled him, he was upset that he was unable to sexually assault his victim.
God. Ugh.
He exited the station and found a place to hide and wait in the dark for an unsuspecting woman to come by. 20 to 30 minutes after killing Elfriede on December 4th, 1940, he came across 19-year-old Irmgard Fries. Paul Ogorzow said nothing to her, just raised the iron rod and hit Miss Fries on the head, knocking her out. While she was unconscious, he ripped off most of her clothing and raped her. Afterwards, he hit her on the head a total of 3 more times, crushing her skull and damaging her brain. Though he was attempting to kill her, she was still alive. He just left her body out in the open. She was found around 4:30 a.m., still alive, though barely. Police did not connect her attack with the others, as this was clearly sexually motivated, while the others were not, obviously. Obviously sexually motivated, not obviously.
Duh.
Yeah. Irmgard Fries never regained consciousness and died in the hospital.
She was 19.
I know.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's like Ethan's age.
Oh, that's so depressing. I mean, this whole thing is just depressing. When you really think about it.
Yep. Dr. Waldemar Weinmann conducted the autopsy and discovered the wounds to Irmgard Fries were the same as Elfriede Franke's, and yet they still did not make the connection. It seemed far-fetched that 2 murders at nearly the same time, but in different crime scenes, were kind of far-fetched that they would be linked, and the train crimes didn't have a sexual component. So she's not on the train. She's off the train. She's sexually assaulted. That's the motive. Nobody else was sexually assaulted, and they were on the train. Elfriede was on the train. So I get, okay, it's 2 separate occasions, but
there's a crazy person running around.
Yeah.
I mean,
other than the Nazis.
That's a given.
Yeah. Eventually, Dr. Weinmann, who was also a psychiatrist, felt that there was a possible sexual component to the train attacks as far as the murderer was concerned, and this was enough for William Lüdke, the police commissioner. Mm-hmm. Lüdke then showed Dr. Weinmann a map of the garden area where he had marked 32 different offenses against women. He pointed out that Gerda Ditter's murder was in the same geographical area. Lurk also pointed out that since the first woman was thrown from the train, no more attacks had occurred in the garden area. Dr. Wyman was concerned that the killer, if it was in fact one man, he was escalating.
Yeah.
Like, pretty seriously.
No shit. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's just crazy to me. I mean, I guess because we're looking at it...
Hindsight.
Yeah, it's easy to...
Looking at it hindsight and in the 21st century. So
True.
a lot has happened between 1940 and 2025.
Yeah, I mean... I just... You would think that, okay, there was... You said 32 offenses in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, maybe if he changed MO, maybe he lives around there. Maybe we should look... You know, I don't know. Looking at it through this lens, it's easy to just say...
We know what serial killers are. They didn't.
I know, it's just crazy to think, like...
Yeah.
What a hell of a time to live. I mean, regardless of it being, like, Nazi Germany, but, like...
Don't worry, I keep thinking, like, 1940 was 40 years ago. I swear to
No
God.
comment.
We're just going to skip the 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So posters were put up in the S-Bahn stations, and they didn't mention the murders. Seeing the posters had Paul Ogorzow worried, even though it didn't really say anything and police only had a vague description of him. By December 1940, the criminal police launched a massive investigation. They interviewed 5,000 of Berlin's 8,000 railway workers, doubled patrols, and used female officers as decoys. Ogorzow, in a chilling twist, volunteered to escort women during the night shift, blending into the investigation like a specter. They put female officers on the train hoping to catch the killer, and they nearly did catch him.
Almost.
One officer was on the train, and Ogorzow began to approach her, but he then realized that she was a cop. He knew that female cops were riding the train, and as he approached her, something frightened him about her. He jumped off the train without injuring himself and took off. She alerted her colleagues at the next station, but Ogorzow had gotten away. Lurk then decided to use men in drag to attempt to catch the killer. Somehow I don't think that that's a good idea.
No.
They went so far as to attempt to conceal the Adam's apple with fur stoles and scarves, but it didn't work. All I can picture is Snape, Severus Snape, when they're doing is it a Bogart? Boggart in the closet,
and he
it's
comes
like,
out and he's all
and
like,
you like manifest your biggest fear, and what's his name? I can't think of his name. Brain fart.
Which one?
The one that was like nerdy looking, but now he's hot.
Oh, Neville.
Neville, thank
Oof.
you.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, no. So Neville pictures Snape. That's what he's afraid of, and then he says, "Okay, now you gotta picture him doing something like that's not scary," and he comes out dressed in his grandmother's clothes. This is what I picture. Sorry, this is a long-winded explanation. This is what I picture when I read this about them disguising and drag. I picture Severus Snape in drag.
Poor Alan Rickman.
I love I'm so sorry he passed away. I really liked Alan Rickman, not just in Harry Potter movies, but
Die Hard.
I don't even think I've seen Die Hard. I know there's gonna be emails about that.
Oh my god, I'm disappointed in you.
Okay, well, I don't really like action movies,
but it's a good Christmas movie. Logan and I watch it every Christmas at least twice.
I watched Jaws once at Christmas because I nearly cut my finger off with a wine bottle.
Oh
yeah, yeah, you know that story. Anyway,
yeah, I do.
All right, we keep digressing.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. So on December 22nd, 1940, Ogorzow found his next victim, 30-year-old Elizabeth Buengener, who was on her way to visit her husband, who was a military recruit. Ogorzow hit her on the head and then opened the train door and threw her from the train, then threw her things out after her. She was alive when he threw her from the train. 5 hours later, around noon, workers found her body. She had died from her injuries. Upon Dr. Wyman's examination, it was determined that she was another S-Bahn Killer victim. In the early morning hours of December 29, 1940, he went on the hunt yet again. He came upon Gertrude Seward.
Can we hold on?
Yes.
I'm sorry. So, you were talking about Elizabeth, right?
Yes.
So I found extremely interesting. So when the police searched her body, they found a medical note saying that she had depression. So they first ruled her death as a suicide because they thought that she just jumped from the train due to her depression. But, then they realized when the medical examiner looked at her, she died from blunt force trauma. But I just thought that was really interesting that they had medical notes back then.
Why would she have a medical note in her pocket depression?
I don't know. I don't know if that was like a huge thing back then where people had to carry that around, but I just thought that was kind of interesting.
I don't know, but it was such a strange world to be in at that point in time.
Correct. Yeah, and I'm not saying I don't believe it. I kind of do because people treated that kind of thing so differently back then. It's not,
right.
There was a stigma behind it, so she had to carry that note. But I just thought that was so weird. They're like, oh, depression, she killed herself.
Killed herself. That's not the killer.
Yeah.
At this point, that's not... Occam's razor would say it's this killer that's the most logical thing. You're having women die being thrown from a train. That would be the more logical explanation at this point, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. But I just needed to say that because I thought that was just, wild.
Yeah.
To have a note like that.
No, that's fine. So...
Gertrude.
He came upon Gertrude Seward, who was 46 years old, hit her on the head. She went limp. He opened the train door, dragged her over, threw her out of the train. Later that morning, Gertrude Seward was found alive on the side of the tracks. She arrived at the hospital alive, but died later that same day. 1 week later, on Sunday, January 5th, 1941, Paul Ogorzow came across 27-year-old Hedwig Ebauer, who was 5 months pregnant. Sorry, guys, this is not going to end well.
Gosh.
So Ogorzow did not have his usual weapon with him, so he used his hands to choke her. Mrs. Ebauer fought back, damaging her hands with the punches that she landed. He reacted by punching and kicking her and eventually succeeded in choking her unconscious. Then he threw her from the train. That morning, Hedwig Ebauer was found alive on the side of the tracks, but died later the same day. Her death was a result of head trauma she suffered from the fall when she was thrown from the train. By now, many Berliners heard about the attacks on the S-Bahn. Lurk pushed hard to be able to publicize what was happening in order to get any tips people may have had, but Goebbels wouldn't allow the publicity. Lurk was eventually able to get an article placed in a newspaper. The article was light on the gruesome details, but gave some specifics on his throwing women from the train. On the night of February 11th, 1941, 39-year-old Johanna Voigt, mother of 3 and 3 months pregnant, approached Ogorzow and asked him to ride the train with her.
Because she was scared, because she heard all the rumors and she was scared. Of all people.
To ask to ride with you because you're scared of the killer, you've just asked the killer to ride with you.
I can't imagine.
And she's also pregnant. This isn't going to end well either.
No.
So... I hate to say trigger warning. I just kind of feel like if you're listening to a true crime podcast about a serial killer, you're going to be... Things are going to upset you.
And so far, it hasn't been peaches and cream. So, I mean, this is just...
He had his iron rod with him.
Of course.
And once they were in the second-class compartment, he slammed the rod down on her head over and over again. Then he dragged her to the open door and threw her out. She did not survive, neither did her baby. I mean, she was 3 months pregnant, obviously. It's not going to survive. Pressure to catch the killer increased. Lurk received permission to post an article with more information about the attacks. Ogorzow continued to volunteer as an escort for women during the blackout hours. Because of the large police presence, Ogorzow was trying to suppress his need to kill women and wait until things died down. He continued to report to work, spend time with his family, and tend to his cherry trees, along with escorting women who were afraid to ride the S-Bahn alone because of the killer. In a bid to flesh out the killer, Lurk announced that beginning July 1st, 1941, the police monitoring of the S-Bahn would stop, though there would still be police monitoring. So they were saying, "Oh, we're gonna leave now. We're not gonna be there. You can go ahead and kill people." But really, they were actually there. It was kind of like, trying to fake them out. Fake them out. During the early morning hours of July 3rd, 1941, Paul Ogorzow returned to his old hunting grounds at the garden area. He stopped by the home of the woman he was having an affair with, but she wasn't home, so he returned to the S-Bahn and took the train to another station. When he exited the station, he chose a target and followed her. Frida Koziol was walking ahead of him, and he asked if she wanted him to accompany her. She declined, so he of course bashed her head in, hitting her over the head over and over again, to the point that her head caved in. He then ripped her clothing off of her lower body, tore her shirt, and the only thing that she had on below her waist were her knee-high boots. He raped her as she lay dying, though it's possible she was already dead. I hope she was.
God.
He left her there and disposed of the iron bar near the tracks. Mrs. Koziol's body was found around 4:30 the morning of July 3rd, 1941. Police found semen on her body and footprints. Detective Lurk believed the distinctive footprints would be key in cracking the case. In talking to S-Bahn workers, one mentioned that a co-worker had been climbing a fence, leaving his job, and then returning. When asked where he had been, he told his co-workers he was with a woman. The man seen leaving was Paul Ogorzow. Ogorzow did not look like what they thought a serial killer should look like. He was happily married. He was a family man, loyal party member, and brown shirt, whose only interest outside work was tending his cherry trees. He's a regular George Washington.
I was gonna say,
No, he cut down the cherry trees.
yeah, I was gonna say, but still, what a picturesque life this guy leads.
Do you know I was third cousin 7 times removed to George Washington? Just throwing that in
Jamie's gonna get a shirt with that on it.
there. I am. Washington didn't sleep here, but we're third cousins.
Oh my God.
So, upon looking at Paul Ogorzow closer, they discovered that during the times when he was working, that coincided with the times of the attacks, he was working alone, doing things that he could easily leave and then come back to. Mm-hmm. So they confiscated clothing and sent it to a lab where they found blood. There was a large amount of blood around the crotch area of his pants, especially near the zipper. That grossed me out so bad. I mean, because of the last woman that he that just it makes me want to gag. It just
I know. It's insane.
God, I hope she was dead. I mean, not that I'm glad he killed her, but I hope she was dead.
She suffered
and
enough.
didn't know anything.
Yeah. He's a sick bastard.
Yes. But then he had an explanation saying that his wife had been sick and got blood on him, and she corroborated the story. He also said he cut his finger and wiped it on his clothing. The problem for him was that the lab believed the blood stain on the jacket was from a struggle. The blood spatter did not fit the narrative of wiping a bloody finger. Under intense questioning, he admitted to harassing women in the garden area. Lurk pressed Ogorzow to confess, but Ogorzow in his confessions would say he used a knife in an attack when he had used the iron bar and vice versa, before finally telling the truth and admitting to what he had done. They learned that he had gone back and visited the body of one of his victims before she was discovered, but was sickened at what he had done and never went back to any of the others. Paul Ogorzow, by his own admission, related that he had contracted STDs 3 separate times from women not his wife, and tried to push the blame for his killings onto the Jewish doctor who treated him, saying it caused an issue in his brain.
Yeah, wasn't it gonorrhea or something?
Yes.
Oh my God.
If you had syphilis... Yes, that untreated will cause issues. Gonorrhea...
I didn't think it could.
No, I don't...
Syphilis is a big deal if you don't get that treated.
Yes, it is. It will eventually kill you.
It'll eat your brain, right?
Yeah, it'll eat your brain.
Brain rot.
So German authorities felt this showed his lack of morality, because he had STDs 3 separate times from women who weren't his wife.
Yeah, what a gold star man.
Yeah. So then he tried blaming women as a whole, saying he had a certain hatred of women, and then he talked about how much he loved his son and tried playing the family man card. But none of it worked. His Nazi party membership was officially revoked, and the day after his trial, Friday, July 25th, 1941, he was executed.
By guillotine.
It was only 13 days after his arrest. The guillotine was used. After his execution, a bill was sent to his wife containing a charge for wear and tear on the guillotine blade.
I'm so glad you mentioned. I have a note and I put LOL.
Yes.
Just like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for her because she didn't know this was going on.
But she lied, though, at one point and said, "Oh, that blood's from me." She knew damn well
she
that
said she
blood...
was sick, but he was abusive. Apparently, like, their sense of happy family was not... I mean, he was cheating on her, but he was abusive to her.
I figured he was.
So...
I mean, okay.
She was probably afraid.
I see what you're saying. I get it. Okay.
You know, in that situation, I would think just about anybody would lie, because if they don't get arrested,
he's gonna come home and get you.
Exactly.
No, I understand what you're saying.
She
agree.
probably saw more of the real him than anybody else behind closed doors.
Those poor kids. Oof.
Yes. So she. I mean, I think it's just kind of funny that, you know, okay, well, we killed your husband, and now we're going to send you the bill for servicing the guillotine blade.
Again, I wrote
think it's
LOL.
hilarious.
I was like, what?
But I don't think it's fair to her, because
No, I agree.
You know.
I understand, yep.
And so William Lurk, the police commissioner, you want to know what happened to him? He ended up being recruited by the CIA after the war in 1951. So do we want to discuss anything about this case?
So I just...
The gabbing part of the stab and gab?
Well, I mean, so did you read about the guy, Herr Hyman? Did you hear
Herr
about...
Hyman?
Yeah. Did you read anything about
remember.
him? So there was a guy, after the footprints were discovered by the last body, they matched this guy's shoe prints up because he had a lot of sexual crime pasts. So he was a peeping Tom, and he also had some sexual assaults on his record. So he admitted, this is so messed up. So when the police were interrogating him about this to see if he was the killer, he admitted to watching the murderer, Paul, rape the woman. And then later when he approached, he realized that she was dead. He did nothing about it. So that's why his shoe prints were there.
That's why the shoe prints were there.
He walked to, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to think about...
See if he could get sloppy seconds.
I know. It's like disgusting. So he admitted to that, and he didn't do a dang thing about it. And I don't know what happened to him. I don't know.
I hope he got guillotined too.
I hope so too. I mean, but yeah, he watched it from afar, and then I guess thought, oh, she's unconscious. Let me go over there. And later he got discovered. But I just thought that was so messed up.
Yeah, I hope something happened to him as well. I didn't read about that. Or if I did, I skimmed over it.
Yeah. I just thought it was so gross.
Yeah, that is disgusting. Like, why would you even do that? I mean, if she's dead, I get maybe not wanting to say, hey, I was there too, but...
Yeah. Or I came across her. I mean,
yeah,
not saying I watched from afar as Paul raped. Like, I just... Ugh.
Yeah, it's just disgusting.
I mean,
you know, whatever. Just disgusting. The whole thing is crazy. I mean, Nazis were bad enough. They were horrendous people, but then to have somebody so horrendous that they even were like, we're pulling your Nazi card.
Yeah.
Like, you're so bad, we don't even want to be associated with you anymore.
But it was crazy to think, like, I was reading also about how they were, like, trying to figure out a way to pin it on the Jews. But, of course, none of the Jewish people were allowed on trains at that point. So it's like they couldn't... It was a
curfew. They had an 8 p.m. curfew, so they couldn't
manipulate the story into being, like, a heinous person that's a Jewish person killing. Yeah. They couldn't... They wanted to spin it, and they couldn't figure out how to do it. It's just awful to think that it was more important to make it seem like somebody from the Jewish community was committing these murders and protecting the women, the German women that, you know, I thought that was insane for them to be like, how can we spin this to fit this agenda?
Yeah.
I mean, people are dying.
Well, he even said when he even tried to pin it on the Jewish doctor who treated his STDs, saying it was his fault and he had brain disease because of STDs that he was treated for by a Jewish doctor.
The fact that he got the STDs, but he's like...
And that's what screwed him even more, because admitting he had 3 different STDs from 3 different women that weren't his wife, then they were like, you really are not a moral person. No. You know, so then they had issue with that, and it kind of went in the wrong direction than what he thought it would.
Yeah.
Anyway, either way, it just...
yeah, so
he was gross.
He was disgusting. So... I found that he committed at least 30 sexual assaults and killed 11 women. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was just what I found. Again, he's not very well known, at least in the States, I guess I could say. Like, maybe in Germany, there's more information about him. Like, there was Berlin Experience website that I got a lot of information off of that talked about, like, you could book tours and things, not for his crimes, but just things of, like, historic nature. So, I mean, maybe in Germany this is more, like, known about, but I couldn't really find a ton of stuff other than the book that we read. And
yeah, I think there's at least one or maybe two other books out there that come up. Mm-hmm. This book that we read, and I'll put it in the show notes, it is considered the book
and
on,
it was a great
on him.
book.
It
they
was
had
actually
maps
not
and
bad.
everything.
It was a good book.
It was easy to understand the atmosphere and like the layout, like the lay of the land, pretty much.
And I left out some stuff. I mean, Liz has touched on some of it, but this is considered the definitive book on this topic. Mm-hmm. But there's really not a whole lot about him, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that it was wartime. Mm-hmm. Not once but twice. It was wartime when he was born. Yeah. And wartime when he was killing. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of upheaval in Germany, and that's why there's not much information on him. And whether you're drawn to the twisted psychology or the terrifying timeline, the story of Paul Ogorzow is a chilling reminder that even during blackouts, the darkest monsters don't always hide in the shadows. They ride the rails, they blend in, and sometimes they wear a uniform. That's it for this episode of Lurk. If tonight's tale has you side-eyeing every passing train or double-checking the locks, you're not alone. Remember, you can find Lurk on all major podcast platforms or at lurkpodcast.com, where you can dive into our blog, meet the team, and sign up for our newsletter. Follow us on social media to share your theories, stay updated, and join the conversation. If you enjoyed this journey into the darker corners of history, leave us a 5-star review and spread the word. Help us keep the stab and gab spirit alive. Until next time, keep lurking.